Welcome back to my channel, Rare Coins Shop. If you're excited about finding hidden gems in your pocket change, you're in the right place. First, we're going to uncover some of the most valuable and rare US coins that could be worth a fortune. Let's dive in. We're about to uncover something truly special, the 1965 Washington $quarter coin. Now, when you hear quarter, you probably think of it as just another coin, right? But trust me, this one is more than just a quarter. It could be worth a small fortune. So, sit back, relax, and let's take a deep dive into the history and value of the 1965 Washington quarter. Before we get into the nitty-gritty of its value, let's talk about the background of this iconic coin. The Washington quarter was first introduced in 1932 to commemorate the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. Since then, the design has remained largely unchanged, with Washington's portrait gracing the obverse and an eagle on the reverse. But the 1965 Washington quarter is a bit different. This year marked a pivotal time in U.S. coinage history, which makes it so intriguing to collectors today. In 1965, the United States made a major change to its coins. Due to a coin shortage and rising silver prices, the U.S. Mint made the decision to remove silver from the quarters, dimes, and half dollars and replace it with a copper-nickel blend. This change led to a major shift in the metal composition of U.S. currency, and while this wasn't a one-time event, the 1965 Washington quarter was the first year to feature this new composition. This change was incredibly significant because it marked the end of an era. For years, U.S. coins were made with silver, and silver had long been associated with both wealth and value. The shift to a copper-nickel composition made the 1965 quarters somewhat less attractive to collectors at first, as the older silver quarters were still in circulation. However, this specific change laid the foundation for a whole new category of coin collecting. So, why is the 1965 Washington quarter so valuable now? After all, it wasn't originally seen as particularly rare or special. Here's the catch. While the coins from this year were made in large quantities and circulated widely, a very small number of 1,965 quarters were accidentally struck with silver instead of the new copper-nickel blend. This error, called a silver melt error, occurred due to leftover silver planchets, the blank metal discs used to make coins, in the mint's facilities. These silver planchets were used accidentally in the production of the 1965 quarter, making these particular coins highly desirable among collectors. Imagine this, a coin that was supposed to be made of copper-nickel ends up being made of silver instead. These silver Washington quarters from 1965 are extremely rare and highly sought after because they represent a huge mistake on the part of the U.S. Mint. And like many error coins, they're incredibly valuable because of their rarity. So, what makes these silver quarters so special? For one, the mistake was small. Only a few of these silver planchets were used in the production of 1965 quarters. And due to the nature of coin production, these rare coins are incredibly difficult to find today. Collectors who specialize in error coins are always on the lookout for these types of unique finds, and the 1965 silver Washington quarter has become one of the most famous error coins in U.S. numismatics. But what about the value? You might be thinking, how much could a single 1965 Washington quarter be worth? Well, if you're lucky enough to find one of these rare silver melt error coins, you're in for a serious surprise. These quarters, in exceptional condition, can sell for an astonishing amount at auction. Depending on the condition, rarity, and whether or not the coin has been certified by a professional grading service, a 1965 silver Washington quarter could be worth as much as $140,000. That's right, $140,000 for a single quarter. It's hard to believe that a coin worth just 25 cents could be worth so much, but the rarity and uniqueness of these silver error quarters have made them incredibly valuable. If you happen to find one in your collection or in your change, it could be a game changer for your coin collection or even your wallet. But here's the thing. Finding one of these silver 1965 quarters is not easy. They're incredibly rare, and many of the ones that have been found have already been sent to auction or placed in private collections. But that doesn't mean you should give up hope. Coin collecting is all about patience, attention to detail, and sometimes, a little bit of luck. If you're diligent in your searches and keep your eyes peeled for this error, you could very well find one of these elusive treasures yourself. So, let's recap. The 1965 Washington quarter is a coin that represents a key moment in U.S. history. The change from silver to copper-nickel in the minting process marked the end of an era in coinage. But within this moment in history, there was a small yet significant mistake that created a rare and highly valuable coin, the 1965 silver Washington quarter. If you happen to find one of these rare coins, in good condition, you could be looking at a coin worth up to $140,000. Coin collecting is full of surprises, and sometimes the smallest, most ordinary-looking coins can turn out to be worth incredible sums of money. The 1965 Washington quarter is a perfect example of how a coin's value can change over time due to its rarity, condition, and unique history. Second rare coin, we dive into the 1971 Washington quarter dollar coin and uncover its surprising value. Now, when we think of the Washington quarter, it's easy to think of the familiar design, the image of George Washington, the first president of the United States, proudly gracing the obverse side of the coin. This design has been in circulation since 1932 and has become a staple of U.S. currency. But what makes the 1971 Washington quarter stand out in the world of coin collecting? Well, as with many coins, the real value lies not just in its design but in its history, rarity, and potential errors that might make a seemingly average coin extremely valuable. Let's set the stage. The year 1971 was a turning point for the U.S. economy. In 1965, the U.S. Mint had stopped using silver for coins like the quarter, dime, and half dollar. Instead, these coins were made from a copper-nickel composition, which would continue until today. The Washington quarter of 1971, being part of this post-silver era, was one of the many quarters that circulated widely during the 1970s. This might make it sound like just another coin, but that's not the whole story. The 1971 Washington quarter may seem like it was produced in standard quantities, and it certainly was. However, there are certain characteristics that make specific 1971 quarters much more valuable than others. One of the most significant factors is the mint errors that occurred during the coin's production. And these errors, though seemingly small, can drastically affect the value of the coin. The 1971 Washington quarter was minted in large numbers, both in Philadelphia and Denver. Most of these coins were produced with the standard copper-nickel composition and were released into circulation, where they spent years in pockets, vending machines, and cash registers. But a few of these coins didn't make it into circulation in the way they were intended. Some coins were struck with die errors, off-center strikes, and double dies. These are the types of anomalies that collectors are looking for in rare coins. For instance, one of the most sought-after variations of the 1971 Washington quarter is the double die variety. This happens when the coin is struck twice, causing the design to appear slightly doubled or misaligned. It could be a doubling of Washington's face, the word liberty, or even the date itself. These kinds of errors are incredibly appealing to collectors because they make a coin stand out from the rest. A double die 1971 quarter is a rare find, and collectors are willing to pay a premium for such a unique coin, but there's even more to this coin story. Alongside these mint errors, some 1971 quarters were produced with a lower-than-expected mintage, which makes them rarer and harder to find. A quarter with a low mintage, especially if it has been well preserved and carefully stored, can fetch a much higher price on the market. Now, let's talk about condition. Like any collectible, the condition of the coin plays a major role in determining its value. A 1971 Washington quarter in excellent, uncirculated condition, free of wear and tear from circulation, is far more valuable than one that has been heavily used. Coins that are in mint condition, with crisp details and no significant scratches or dings, are extremely desirable to collectors. These coins can be worth much more than their face value due to their pristine quality. If you happen to come across a 1971 Washington quarter with a rare minting error or in top-notch condition, the value could be astronomical. These coins, due to their rarity and the unique characteristics they possess, are in high demand within the coin collecting community. And this brings us to the exciting part, the potential value. A well-preserved 1971 Washington quarter, especially one with a notable mint error, could be worth far more than you might think. The market for rare coins is always evolving, but a 1971 Washington quarter in excellent condition or with an error has been known to sell for as much as $135,000. That's right, $135,000 for a single coin. It might sound unbelievable, but in the world of coin collecting, anything is possible. Coins like the 1971 Washington quarter with rare minting errors or exceptional conditions are highly prized, and collectors are willing to pay a premium to add them to their collections. So, next time you come across a 1971 Washington quarter, take a moment to examine it closely. Is it in pristine condition? Do you notice any doubling in the design? Is it an off-center strike or a coin with any other unique characteristics? These little details could make all the difference between a standard quarter and a coin worth thousands of dollars. If you're lucky enough to find one of these rare 1971 Washington quarters, it could be a game changer for your collection or even your bank account. And remember, coin collecting is all about patience and keen observation. Sometimes, a coin that seems ordinary can turn out to be a hidden treasure waiting to be discovered. Third expensive coin, we explore one of the most fascinating and valuable coins in U.S. numismatics, the 1972 Washington $quarter coin. You might be thinking, a 1972 quarter? What's so special about that? Well, hold on tight because this seemingly ordinary coin is hiding some serious potential value that you might not expect. The Washington quarter, first introduced in 1932, has been one of the most iconic and long-standing coins in the United States. On the obverse side, we see the distinguished portrait of George Washington, the first President of the United States, and on the reverse, we see an eagle perched proudly with outstretched wings. This design has remained relatively unchanged for decades, making it one of the most recognized coins in circulation. But while the design has stayed consistent, some years and mints have produced coins that are far more valuable than others. The 1972 Washington quarter is one of those rare, hidden gems that deserves a closer look. The 1972 Washington quarter stands out for several reasons. This coin is part of a series produced during a pivotal time in U.S. coinage history, when the U.S. Mint made some critical decisions about the materials used in coins. In 1965, the Mint transitioned from silver to a copper-nickel composition in an effort to address rising silver prices. By 1972, this copper-nickel composition had become the standard for quarters, dimes, and half dollars. While this transition marked a departure from the silver-rich days of coinage, the 1972 Washington quarter holds value not just because of its composition, but because of some unique circumstances surrounding its production. One of the key factors that makes the 1972 Washington quarter stand out is the potential for minting errors. As with any coin series, some coins are struck incorrectly during the production process, leading to valuable error coins. The 1972 quarter, in particular, is known for some very noticeable and sought-after minting errors. One of the most significant of these is the double die error. A double die error happens when a coin is struck twice by the dies, creating a doubled effect in certain areas of the coin's design. This can be seen clearly on the 1972 Washington quarter, where the details on George Washington's face or the lettering on the coin appear doubled. This mistake in the minting process creates a very distinct look, making these coins highly desirable among collectors. Imagine stumbling upon a coin that looks almost off because the image is doubled. It's a clear indicator that you might have an error coin on your hands, and with the right verification, it could be worth a fortune. Another aspect that makes the 1972 Washington quarter so interesting is its rarity and high-quality condition. While these coins were minted in large numbers, many of them were used in daily transactions, and over time, they suffered from wear and tear. The 1972 Washington quarter is actually quite difficult to find in excellent, uncirculated condition, making those in pristine shape particularly valuable. Coins that have been well preserved, free of scratches, nicks, and other forms of damage, are always in high demand from collectors, as they represent a snapshot of history in its original, untouched form. Now, let's talk about the value of these coins. While most 1972 Washington quarters might not be worth more than their face value of 25 cents, those with mint errors or in outstanding condition can command significant premiums. For example, a 1972 quarter with a double die error or a well-preserved example in mint condition can be worth far more than you'd expect. Some of these rare coins have been known to fetch prices that leave collectors and numismatists in AWE.SO. Just how much is a 1972 Washington quarter worth? If you happen to come across one of these rare, error-free, or well-preserved 1972 Washington quarters, the value can soar. In fact, if you find a 1972 Washington quarter that has the right combination of error, rarity, and condition, it could be worth as much as $120,000. That's right, $120,000 for a single coin that most people would overlook in their spare change. It's hard to believe, but that's the power of coin collecting. Coins that were once thought of as insignificant can, with the right conditions, turn into incredibly valuable treasures. So, what should you look for when searching for a valuable 1972 Washington quarter? First and foremost, you'll want to check for any visible mint errors like the double die variety. Inspect the coin closely for any signs of doubling in the design, especially around the date, Liberty, or George Washington's portrait. A magnifying glass or coin loop is your best friend here. Also, keep an eye out for coins in mint condition. A 1972 Washington quarter that looks as if it just came off the minting press can be worth a lot more than one that's been worn down by years of circulation. If you have a collection of quarters or just happen to find a 1972 Washington quarter in your change, it's worth taking the time to check it over carefully. Even the smallest minting flaw or the slightest bit of wear can significantly affect the coin's value. To wrap things up, the 1972 Washington quarter may seem like just another coin in your pocket, but when you take a closer look, you'll realize that this coin has the potential to be a valuable collector's item. Whether it's a rare minting error like the double die variety or just a pristine example of a coin from an important era in U.S. history, the 1972 Washington quarter could be worth far more than its face value. Especially, let's dive in and discover what makes the 1981 Washington quarter so special and valuable. First, let's take a quick look at the Washington quarter's history. The quarter was first introduced in 1932, as part of the commemoration of George Washington's 200th birthday. The coin features a bust of the first U.S. president on the obverse, or front, side and an eagle on the reverse, back. This design has remained largely the same for decades, making it one of the most recognizable coins in the United States. But as we move forward in time, especially to the 1981 issue, there are some interesting details worth noting. By 1981, the Washington quarter had already seen decades of changes in its composition and minting processes. The silver content in U.S. coins was removed in 1965, and by the 1980s, quarters were being struck with a mixture of copper and nickel. This shift from silver was a big change for coin collectors, but it also meant that certain years saw subtle variations in the minting process, giving collectors the opportunity to find rare coins among seemingly common ones. Now, you might be thinking, what makes the 1981 Washington quarter worth so much? Most quarters from this year are relatively easy to find, and their face value is just 25 cents. But here's where things get interesting. There's a particular type of 1981 Washington quarter that has captured the attention of serious collectors, the 1981 D Washington quarter with a unique error point. One of the most sought-after versions of this coin is the one with a minting error known as a double die. The double die error occurs when a coin is struck more than once by the dies, causing a doubling effect on the coin's design. This doubling can appear on the lettering, the date, or other areas of the coin, making it stand out from the standard strike. The 1981 D Washington quarter is especially famous for this type of error. It's rare and creates a distinct, doubled look that can be spotted with a magnifying glass or loupe. Collectors love these types of errors because they are rare, and the more noticeable the error, the higher the value of the coin. A double die error on a 1981 D Washington quarter can significantly increase its value, turning a simple 25-cent coin into a highly coveted collector's item. What makes this coin so valuable is its rarity. Only a small number of coins from the 1981 D minting year were struck with this error, making them a true treasure for any serious numismatist. But even if you don't have a 1981 D with a minting error, the condition of the coin also plays a significant role in determining its worth. Like most coins, a Washington quarter in pristine, uncirculated condition can be worth much more than one that has been heavily circulated. Coins that show little to no wear, with sharp details and brilliant surfaces, are highly prized by collectors. So, if you've come across a 1981 Washington quarter in excellent condition, you may have a much more valuable coin than you realize. The best way to tell if your 1981 Washington quarter has any errors or is in exceptional condition is to examine it carefully. Look closely at the details on both the obverse and reverse sides of the coin. Use a magnifying glass or a coin loop to get a closer look at the date, lettering, and designs. Pay special attention to any signs of doubling in the design or areas where the coin may appear worn or aged. If your coin is in pristine condition, it's also worth checking with a professional coin grader or numismatist to verify its worth. So, how much can a 1981 Washington quarter be worth? Well, most of these coins will still only fetch their face value, but those with minting errors, like the double die error, or those in outstanding condition, can be worth far more. If you happen to find one of these rare error coins in excellent condition, it can be valued at an incredible $100,000. That's right, $100,000 for a 1981 Washington quarter. It might sound unbelievable, but this is exactly what rare, error coins in excellent condition can command in today's collector market. A single coin that you might have picked up in change could turn out to be worth a small fortune. So, the next time you go through your spare change or dig through an old collection, make sure to check for the 1981 Washington quarter. You never know what hidden treasure you might find. Before you go, remember that coin collecting is all about patience and attention to detail. Even if you don't have a 1981 Washington quarter with a minting error, it's always worth keeping an eye out for these valuable coins. A little research and a keen eye for rare features can make all the difference in the world of coin collecting. Next coin, we explore why the 1986 Washington quarter is one of the most sought-after coins in the world of numismatics. Before we get into the specifics of this coin's value, let's take a moment to reflect on the history and design of the Washington quarter. First introduced in 1932, the quarter has been a staple of American currency for nearly a century. The iconic image of George Washington, the first president of the United States, has graced the obverse of the coin since its inception. The reverse side originally featured an eagle, but over time, various designs have come and gone. However, the 1986 Washington quarter still retains that timeless image of Washington on the front, with an eagle landing on an olive branch adorning the back, symbolizing peace. The 1986 Washington quarter was minted at the Philadelphia Mint, hence the P mint mark, and it was produced as part of the ongoing effort to commemorate the country's founding and history. But as we know, it's not just the design and historical context that make a coin valuable, it's the details, and in this case, the 1986 Washington quarter has something special that many collectors are after. Now, you might wonder, what makes the 1986 Washington quarter worth so much? Well, here's where it gets interesting. While most of these coins are still in circulation or stored in collections around the world, some rare and valuable versions stand out due to minting errors and rare variations. One of the key factors that has made the 1986 Washington quarter so valuable is its relative rarity in higher grades. The general population of these quarters is abundant, but those that have been kept in pristine condition, free from scratches, wear, or discoloration, are incredibly rare. A coin that's been well preserved could be worth far more than just its face value of 25 cents, but that's not all. One of the most exciting things about the 1986 Washington quarter is that it has been known to feature a few specific errors that have increased its value significantly. Minting errors are a major focus for serious coin collectors because they create one-of-a-kind pieces. For instance, some 1986 quarters feature slight overstrikes or even a minor die crack, which can cause the coin's design to appear slightly misaligned. These imperfections, while small, make a huge difference in the coin's desirability and price. Another factor that can make a 1986 Washington quarter truly stand out is its condition. Coins that are preserved in mint condition, known as uncirculated coins, can fetch a premium price on the market. A mint condition 1986 Washington quarter could attract collectors who are specifically seeking coins that have never been in circulation. These pristine coins are hard to find, and their limited availability adds to their allure and value. Now, let's take a look at the ultimate question: how much can a 1986p Washington quarter be worth? Most people are familiar with the fact that quarters are generally worth 25 cents, but the rare, high-grade examples of the 1986p Washington quarter can reach eye-popping prices. A typical coin, even in decent condition, may only be worth a few dollars, but a rare 1986p Washington quarter in mint or near-mint condition, especially one with a minting error, can fetch an impressive $94,000. Yes, you heard that right, $94,000 for a single 1986p Washington quarter. That's the power of rare coins in great condition or those with unique features. So, if you happen to have one of these exceptional coins in your collection or have come across one in your spare change, you may be holding onto a hidden treasure. It's always important to remember that coin collecting is not just about money, it's about appreciation for history, design, and the stories behind each piece of currency. But let's face it, finding a rare coin that's worth thousands of dollars certainly adds an extra level of excitement to the hobby. Whether you're a seasoned collector or just getting started, the 1986p Washington quarter is a reminder that the world of coins is full of surprises, and you never know what you might discover next. Now is the 1988D Washington quarter dollar coin. You might think this is just another typical quarter, but trust us, this one has some surprises in store for those who know what to look for. Let's take a moment to explore the history of the Washington quarter and why this particular 1988D version is so noteworthy. The Washington quarter, first introduced in 1932, has been a symbol of American pride for generations. The coin features the portrait of George Washington, the first president of the United States, and it's been a part of American currency ever since. Over the years, the reverse of the coin has seen different designs, but by 1988, it featured the traditional eagle in flight with an olive branch, symbolizing peace and strength. But while the design of the 1988D Washington quarter may seem familiar, it's what's under the surface that has coin collectors buzzing. The D mint mark indicates that this coin was struck at the Denver Mint, one of the most important coin minting facilities in the United States. It was produced during a period when coins were made with a composition of copper and nickel, following the removal of silver from most U.S. currency in the 1960s. However, even with the change in metal composition, the Washington quarter maintained its iconic design, making it a reliable piece of currency throughout the years. Now, here's the part that really gets interesting. You might be wondering what makes the 1988D Washington quarter so valuable. Well, despite being a relatively recent coin, there are a few key factors that make this specific quarter highly sought after. As with many other U.S. coins, the value of a Washington quarter is largely determined by its condition and rarity. But in the case of the 1988D quarter, certain unique characteristics make it particularly rare and valuable among collectors. One of the main reasons for its value is the rarity of high-quality examples. While these quarters were minted in large quantities, it is extremely rare to find one that has been well preserved over the years. Many of these coins were circulated heavily, and those that have been subjected to years of wear and tear often lose the sharp details that collectors look for. As time goes on, the number of 1988D Washington quarters in excellent condition continues to dwindle, making those few that remain in top-tier condition incredibly valuable. But that's not the only factor that sets the 1988D Washington quarter apart. Similar to other years, certain minting errors have been discovered that make some of these coins stand out even more. One of the most coveted types of error coins is the double die variety. This happens when the coin is struck more than once by the die, causing certain details, like the date or lettering, to appear doubled. In some cases, the doubling is subtle, but in others, it's quite noticeable, making the coin a rare find and a prized possession among collectors. If you happen to find a 1988D Washington quarter with such an error, it could be worth significantly more than a standard coin. In addition to minting errors, the overall condition of the coin plays a massive role in determining its value. Coins that have been kept in mint state, that is, coins that have never been circulated or only lightly circulated, can fetch impressive prices. For example, a well-preserved 1988D Washington quarter with no signs of wear, tarnishing, or scratches is incredibly valuable, as collectors are always on the lookout for pristine examples. If you're lucky enough to own one of these rare, error-free, and high-quality 1988D quarters, you're holding onto a coin that could be worth much more than its face value of 25 cents. You might be surprised to know that in today's collector market, the 1988D Washington quarter can be worth an astonishing $82,000. That's right, $82,000 for a single coin. While this price might seem almost too good to be true, it's the result of a perfect storm of rarity, condition, and demand in the world of numismatics. High-quality examples or error varieties of the 1988D Washington quarter are highly coveted by collectors, and their rarity continues to drive prices higher. So, how can you tell if your 1988D Washington quarter is one of these rare finds? The best way to identify valuable coins is to examine them closely. Look for any signs of doubling in the design, particularly around the date and lettering. Use a magnifying glass or loupe to get a closer look at the finer details of the coin. If you see any unique features or noticeable minting errors, you may have just found a hidden treasure. Additionally, pay attention to the overall condition of the coin. If it looks as though it has been well preserved and doesn't show signs of wear, dirt, or scratches, it could be a high-grade coin worth far more than its face value. If you suspect that your 1988D Washington quarter may be worth more, it's a good idea to have it professionally graded by a reputable coin grading service. They can help you determine its condition and assign a grade, which can have a huge impact on its market value. To sum up, the 1988D Washington quarter might seem like a simple, everyday coin to the untrained eye, but for serious collectors, it's a treasure with incredible potential. If you've got one of these coins in your collection, or if you happen to come across one in your spare change, take a moment to examine it closely. With minting errors and rare high-grade examples out there, you could be sitting on a coin worth a lot more than 25 cents, and if you find a mint condition 1988D Washington quarter or a rare error variety, you might just have a coin worth $82,000. Last unique coin is the 1997P Washington quarter, a coin that may look like just another quarter at first glance, but there's so much more to it than meets the eye. So, grab your magnifying glass, and let's get into it. Now, if you've been following our channel for a while, you know that Washington quarters are one of the most iconic coins in U.S. history. The Washington quarter first appeared in 1932 to commemorate the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. Over the years, the design has remained relatively consistent, featuring the profile of George Washington on the obverse and a majestic eagle on the reverse. But, as with any coin, there are certain years and mint marks that stand out for their rarity and value, and the 1997P Washington quarter is one of those special examples. This coin was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, as denoted by the P mint mark. The P mint mark is particularly significant because it tells us this coin was produced during a time when the U.S. Mint was working hard to meet the demand for circulating currency during a period of economic stability. The 1990s were a time of growth for the American economy, and the U.S. Mint was cranking out quarters at a rapid pace. However, despite the large quantities produced, certain 1997P quarters have become valuable collectibles due to their unique characteristics. So, what makes this 1997P Washington quarter stand out in the world of numismatics? The answer lies in its rarity, its condition, and some specific minting errors that can make this coin worth far more than its face value of 25 cents. One of the key factors that contribute to the value of the 1997P Washington quarter is its condition. As you know, coins that are in exceptional condition, especially those that have been well preserved over the years, are highly sought after by collectors. Unfortunately, the majority of the quarters from this year were widely circulated, and most of them show signs of wear and tear. However, if you happen to come across a 1997P quarter that has been kept in mint state, free of scratches, dents, and discoloration, then you could be holding on to a coin with significant value. The rarity of these coins is also a crucial factor. While many 1997P Washington quarters were produced, not all of them have stood the test of time. As more of these coins enter circulation and experience wear, the number of high-grade examples available for collectors continues to shrink. The fewer coins that remain in excellent condition, the more valuable they become, but that's not all. As with many other coins, minting errors can make certain 1997 P Washington quarters incredibly valuable. One of the most exciting aspects of coin collecting is the thrill of discovering a rare minting error. For example, some 1997 P quarters were struck with double dies, causing parts of the design, such as the date or the lettering, to appear doubled. These error coins are a favorite among collectors because they are unique and can't be found in every roll of coins. If you happen to find a 1997 P Washington quarter with a noticeable doubling or any other minting flaw, you could be holding on to a rare treasure that might be worth much more than you ever expected. In addition to minting errors, another important factor in determining a coin's value is the demand from collectors. Washington quarters, especially those from certain years, have always been popular with numismatists. This popularity only increases as time goes on, and the availability of well-preserved coins dwindles. The 1997 P quarter is part of that group of coins that collectors are actively searching for, making it a highly desirable piece in the market. So, what could you expect to get for a 1997 P Washington quarter if you find one in pristine condition or with a rare minting error? Well, the answer might surprise you. In today's collector market, the 1997 P Washington quarter could be worth up to $50,000, yes, you read that right, $50,000. While most of these quarters are worth face value or a little more depending on their condition, a high-quality example, especially one with a minting error, can command a price that's far above and beyond its original value. If you're wondering how to tell if your 1997 P Washington quarter is one of these rare finds, here are a few tips. First, check the overall condition of the coin. If it looks shiny, with sharp details and no signs of wear, it could be in mint state. Pay particular attention to the date, as this is often where collectors look for signs of doubling or other minting errors. You can also use a magnifying glass or a loupe to inspect the coin more closely. Look for any signs of design duplication, particularly around the Liberty inscription or the date. If you notice any doubling, this could be a significant find. In addition to minting errors, be sure to examine the coin for any unusual features or flaws that might make it stand out from other quarters. For example, some 1997 P quarters were struck on incorrect planchets, which are the metal discs that the coins are stamped from. If your coin was struck on a wrong-sized planchet or with metal defects, it could be worth a lot more. If you think you might have one of these valuable coins, it's worth getting it professionally graded by a reputable coin grading service. These services can provide you with an accurate assessment of the coin's condition and help determine its market value. To wrap it up, the 1997 P Washington quarter may look like just another coin at first glance, but if you dig a little deeper, you'll find that it has some serious value for those who know what to look for. Whether it's in exceptional condition, has a rare minting error, or is simply a well-preserved piece of American history, this quarter could be worth a lot more than 25 cents. So, take a close look at your 1997 P quarters, and who knows, you could be holding on to a coin worth an astounding $50,000. Thanks for joining us today. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell so you never miss out on more exciting coin discoveries. Happy hunting, and we'll see you in the next video.